Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Vocal Arts, wherever you are watching or listening from. I am here with Nick Higgs. Nick, please tell the people who you are.
Thanks, Peter. Hi, everybody. I'm Nick Higgs. You can find me pretty much everywhere on social media at Nick Higgs, the singer. And as you can guess in the name, there's no hiding what I do. I am a singer. I am a vocalist, a performer. I'm also a teacher as well. So I kind of split between those two worlds as a performer and a teacher. YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, those are sort of my main homes for content. I do a lot of choral music stuff as well, not just my own solo singing, but also choral music where I kind of stack myself a bunch of different times, layer my voice a bunch and sing some of my favorite choral pieces. And yeah, that's what I've been doing for the last 5 years now. Just kind of scary to
since the
say.
since the dreaded P word.
Yeah, so that's me. Yeah.
You and me both. Where did it all start for you? The musical journey.
Oh, it's been a long time, my entire life. So I have a musical family, which always, I just wanted to do what my older siblings were doing. But that was purely classical music, really. I did a bit of choir when I was a kid, and I liked it. But I was mostly focused on solo stuff. So that took me to university. I know in Canada, it's pretty much the same as it is in the US in terms of education and everything. But I did a 4-year undergrad in voice performance once I finished high school, and then a 2-year master's in opera performance. And then it was pandemic time, so what are you going to do? So that's when the online thing started. So it's been my entire life, but musical content creation has been since 2020. That's kind of when that all started for me. Yeah.
Did you ever do musicals in high school or shows?
Not really. No. So I'm from a very small town. Not that it didn't have musicals, but very, very small. East Coast Canada. And in terms of classical music, nothing going on in that area. Unless, some things would come up every now and then, but for the most part, not a lot. I did Oliver when I was probably 9 or 10.
Mm-hmm.
I did that, and then I took a step away from musical theater for a long time. And I think I definitely fit the description of the snobby classical musician when it came to musical theater. I'm not ashamed to admit that. But my girlfriend, she's a big musical theater person. And so when we got together, she kind of opened my eyes to this whole new world of music. So that route's kind of been new for me in the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's really grown on me as well, actually, as a genre.
Yeah.
I was also very much, and then I still sing opera professionally as like the main performance thing, but I was very much in a little bit of the pretentious camp of like opera being the supreme, and kind of where I've landed is it is still the technique that takes the most training, like the longest kind of like engineering your voice to be incredibly resonant and efficient, and we can talk all about that later, but I'm like blown away by musical theater singers and metal singers and all these other that I can't do, all these things that I can't do with my voice as well as they can. It's really humbled me kind of exploring. And I think what we both do online with the analysis videos has probably opened our minds to a lot of things.
Oh, big time. It's in a technical perspective too. Yeah. But also, I don't know. I thought classical music, opera conveyed emotion at the supreme level. Like it was, that's the height of drama and emotion. And sometimes it can be, but yeah, as you said, these metal singers, just incredibly raw in their emotions, and they can do things that I've never dreamed of being able to do. So it's an incredible, once you open your ears and open your eyes, there's some great repertoire out there.
It's tough. The moments in opera where it's really streamlined are incredible and super impactful. But it's tough to do as an opera singer because you're thinking about so many other things. It's very hard to truly be fully in that emotion when you're when there's so many elements to be concerned about, especially in a big live performance, no microphones, full orchestra, huge house. You've got to watch the conductor. You got to keep an eye on this and that. You're sweating because of the wig. It's like, it's hard to really be in there like 100% in character, as opposed to if you're just on the microphone.
Yeah.
I mean, you can close your eyes. It doesn't matter. Like, you can just get in there and be fully emotional. But the moments when it does happen in opera are spectacular.
Yeah. If you can get around some of the obstacles that opera has, then you'll be okay. I remember when I was in my master's, I did Le Notte di Figaro, and I was the Count, and getting to do that final Contessa Perdono part at the end. I mean, for me, that's one of the most emotional and dramatic moments in opera. But you're also competing with, it was opera school, so we didn't get that many chances to do it in the theater. Plus there's an audience. So then you're battling all those acoustic elements, and part of me wishes in that moment that I could just whip out a microphone and, and just blast it out.
Yeah, especially that particular moment. It's not a big, powerful singing moment. I mean, you still have to be efficient with the sound, but it's a very intimate, vulnerable moment. Beautiful. I love that. That and then the choral like section that follows is just Mozart at its best. Best, really.
You can't beat it.
Yeah, that's a great show. One of the best. How about choral singing? Because you're super into it now. Was that something you did in high school and undergrad?
A little bit, yeah. I was really fortunate that I had two wonderful school music teachers when I was in high school, especially. And they were very motivational to other students to join that might not have joined choir before. So my concert choir in high school had like 92 singers, which for my high school is absolutely massive, purely because they were just so, they asked people to join. They said, okay, just join for a rehearsal and see how you like it. And people stayed. So yeah, I was fairly involved. I joined a men's choir when I was in high school, and that's when I first found out the existence of what a bass 3 was. That just blew my face off. It was a men's choir in Halifax, Nova Scotia, where I'm from. Well, I'm close to that area, but
fair.
They had these bass 3s, these old guys that they just could rumble down there, as you well know. They could just rumble down there, and that was an incredible experience in itself. Singing all male choral music was incredible. My dad also joined the choir too, which was awesome for me. So I joined because I was 15 and I took singing lessons in the city, and they were like, to my dad, they said, hey, why don't you join too? He's like, oh, okay, because my dad's a great singer as well. And he can't read music though, so it was a bit of a challenge for him to work on that. But anyway, so we had a great time. It was so much fun. We learned incredible music, very, very low. We did a lot of Rachmaninoff because we had the people for it, which was so much fun. And then did a bit in high school as well. And then when I graduated, we had a requirement in school, maybe you were the same, to sing in choir. For us, it was the first 2 years of an undergrad, you had to be in choir, something like 6 hours a week of rehearsals or something. And then when you got into your third and fourth years, you could leave choir and do basically opera chorus. So you could be in all the shows with the master's students, which is a lot of fun. And then I joined the group I'm in now called Tafelmusik. That's a Baroque chamber ensemble here in Toronto. So I joined them 2021, I think, or 2022. And I'm still with them now. So it's, I love singing in choir, specifically Baroque music. There's just so much joy for me in that. And then I get to try all my contemporary stuff or any other things in my, I don't know what I call it, my own virtual choir, I guess. So choir all over the place. I love it.
Yeah, we both have one foot in the old world and one foot in the new world.
I know, it's incredible. That's why I'm so glad we're talking today.
Finally chatting, yeah. So do you sing bass in choir typically?
Yeah, so I'd say most of our stuff is 4-part split, and so I'll sing bass with them. If it's an 8-part split, then I'll do baritone, like I'll do bass 1. If we're doing like French Baroque repertoire and there's an haute compte, then I will sing. It's basically tenor 3. So high baritone. I can kind of go into the
It's like the French
stuff.
baritone, which is basically like a low tenor.
Basically, yeah. So we've done a few things with tenor 3 because we only have there's only 5 basses in the choir, 5 tenors, 5 or 6 altos, and then depending on what we're doing, like 5, 7, or 9 sopranos. So it's not a very big group. And funnily enough, none of the basses are actual basses. We're all baritones. So it's that's kind of fun. But if we do something like Monteverdi, we're also at Baroque tuning. We're at 415. So we were doing a Monteverdi concert once, and we were like looking at each other. I don't know how we're gonna get through this. Like low E's that just become E flats, or E flats that become D's.
Yeah,
it's a lot when you're not really built for that. So we could have used you in our in our concerts.
And half steps, they start to make a big difference as you get to the extremes.
They do. They're very helpful on the upper end when you're doing Messiah or
God, yeah.
Messiah in 440 is the worst thing ever. Like doing it at 415 is like a nice. You can just
I've never had the pleasure of a 415 Messiah.
You're missing out. The trumpet shall sound. Oh,
I was doing it at 440, which is brutal for a bass voice.
Yeah, it's not. I've only sung trumpet at 440, so I feel your pain. But just listening to the soloist when they do that in D major, it just makes it a little bit more soft, which is nice.
Yeah. I'm also experiencing this right now. Osmin, the lowest role in all of opera. Yeah. I have the great pleasure of singing the lowest aria from that show in this upcoming cabaret. And it's an aria I've known about and I've played around with for a while, but I can actually sing it now. But I will tell you, like, even just a couple of years ago, maybe you're feeling this in your voice too, like I'm 31 now, and like late 20s, I was like, okay, if I'm going to sing something like Zoroastro, which goes down to a low F or an optional low E, I need to have like good low notes for that day. And now it's like Zoroastro is cake. Anytime, no matter what, those notes are nothing now. But the low D for Osmin, like to have that and have it still be resonant, especially while doing the staging, and like it's a patter aria, so you got to catch your breath. Like that full step or minor third, if you're talking about the F to the D, it feels like light years difference.
Oh, I feel you on that. Oh my gosh, yeah. It's just a comfort thing, and how flexible is your voice feeling in that role for that period of time. Yeah. I feel the same with trying to do the great Schubert art songs. Some of them are like the transposed versions. Like I'm thinking like Schöne Müllerin, like Wohin is in E major, which on the piano, it sounds very low and very muddy. So, trying to find repertoire that fits in a good key and roles that fit in a good key. I've struggled with musical theater as well, because musical theater, they don't write well for baritones. There's not a ton of repertoire for baritones. So we're looking at low tenor stuff. There's also not a lot of bass repertoire in musical theater, unless you want to be sort of the like old grandpa or something strange. So there's this, I don't know if you've encountered this too much, but just transpose whatever you want. I think maybe the culture's shifting a little bit. Not so much in opera, because that's a lot harder to do.
Yeah, that's the last bastion where it's
it's hard. But if you can, from a teacher perspective, instead of finding repertoire that suits the student, make the repertoire they want to sing suit them. So if you can transpose it, then that's one thing. But yeah, I feel you. It's hard to get your voice into the right frame of mind when you're doing a role like that.
It's just crazy. I mean, it's comically low. Like Mozart's, I think, kind of clowning everyone by writing that aria. He was 26 when he wrote it. And like, if you listen to the greatest, most profundo-y bassos of all time, you can barely hear them in recordings.
Yeah.
And it's like Mozart's thinking like, well, someone in the next 300 years will probably nail this one.
Yeah. I'm thinking the only person I can think of that I've seen an operatic, because I haven't listened to a ton of operatic basses. I've been more focused on the baritones, obviously.
Right.
But like Kurt Moll, for example, like an operatic low C, to be able to pull that off.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine.
I know. Even him on this aria, you're like,
pardon? Yeah.
Yeah. There's one descending line that goes down and touches the low D on the word for. And so it's like a kind of a somewhat closed German vowel. And then later it's just a sustained low D on euch. And the first one, there isn't a recording where you can like really hear the bass sing it because it just touches it. And then even in there are recordings where these big basses don't even quite reach the sustained low D. It's kind of like an E weird flat. Yeah. Kurt Moll like nails it, like big open mouth, as much volume as he can get, and it's still like, it just sounds like a little buzz.
Yeah.
Over the orchestra, which is, of course, it's subdued at that point, but it's just a crazy aria. And not only is it that low, but it's a fiendishly hard aria to sing.
Yeah.
It has like coloratura and all this patter, like high patter, low patter, like octave or more jumps throughout. It's like, what are you doing, man?
Yeah. Where is it in the opera? Like, is it early on or towards the end? Or
Act 3, I think. So it's coming. Yeah, it's towards the end.
So you're warmed up maybe quite a lot by that point, so it's hard to get down there. Sheesh.
Yeah, I'm not doing the whole role. I'm just doing that aria in this cabaret performance. But I never envisioned my voice being able to sing that kind of rep, but it just keeps getting lower. So I'm sure someday I'll actually do the role at some point, you know.
Yeah.
There are only like 7 people on the planet that can sing it, so.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's one of those it's hard.
It's one of those.
Yeah. Sheesh.
When you were prepping for the count, actually, let's fast forward a little bit. I was just going through your website, and you kind of decided, like pandemic era opera, maybe not the thing for you. What were some of the factors that contributed to that decision?
Yeah, there were quite a few. Obviously, it was pandemic. We were in school trying to figure out what to do, and I mean, no one was equipped for what was to come, but the opera world was really, really struggling. The big thing was there were, I mean, you know this, but in Canada it's potentially worse in that, you know, there's all the little companies, which Canada doesn't have that many compared to the US. All the little companies, whoosh, they were maybe gone, but they were probably going to be fine because they didn't really pay all that well anyway. So maybe they could survive. The big companies had the donors. So even if they didn't do a season, they were going to be fine in the end. They might run a deficit for a couple of years. It was the 90% middle group of companies that were, they don't have the big budget like Canadian Opera Company, for example, right? So all of a sudden they were gone, and they weren't doing productions, they weren't hiring people. And as somebody who was just going into that in Canada, I didn't feel like that was the right decision for me. Also, I wasn't ever convinced, as much as I love opera and I do love to sing it, I was never convinced that I loved it enough to do it as a career, because, you know, if you don't have the love for it there, then it makes it even harder to pull off.
Forget it. Yeah, just forget it.
Yeah, if I wasn't willing to travel a lot and audition, and if I was fortunate to get a gig, then travel to that location. If I wasn't willing to do that, then it was probably going to be a bit of a difficult lifestyle for me. And then at the same time, I was really interested in technology, and I kind of fell in love with this idea of recording from home. And so that's why I give you major props for being someone who can record so well and does such amazing work at home, but you also have this wonderful career as a live performer as well. Like juggling those two acts, it's not an easy thing to do because your brain, it's two different parts of your brain in a way. A lot of similarities are shared, but it's like very different skills that you have to try and implement.
Totally.
Right? It's not an easy thing to pull off. So I felt like I was at a place in my life where I don't know, I wanted to do a master's in opera, but at the same time, coming out of my undergrad, I felt like there was no other option. I felt like there was no other decision because that was just the next step that everybody did or everybody took. So that's kind of what landed me in this no man's land where I was like, I don't know if I want to do this. So then I decided, why don't I learn everything I can about recording and doing stuff at home. Honestly, my initial sort of pull towards that was that I wanted to help other classical singers figure out how to record from home and send self-tapes and do all that stuff. So that's actually where I started. I don't know what I was doing. I made so many mistakes, but I started this company called Vosity Audio, which was the name. And it was basically audio and video editing. I learned how to use Adobe Audition and Premiere Pro and all these programs. And I was just working with people to try and do that. And then I started my own singing. So long story short, I decided, why don't I be an opera singer, but just in the city of Toronto? Because I think I can get enough work there if I want to do that part-time. And that's kind of what I do. Some gigs come across my desk and I can sort of look at them and say, okay, do I want to commit time to doing this? Would I rather be teaching during this time, making videos? And I can sort of pick and choose what I want to do. The choral music stuff with Tafel Music, we don't have a busy schedule, but it does go all year. So I have to make sure that I can do all of that work as well. So it's a juggling act, as you know.
Yeah. Do you ever find yourself in like full scale opera productions anymore? Or is that not something that comes up very often?
No, not really.
Typically it's not for anyone who's not like full on pursuing the thing, but
yeah. I don't currently audition for performances. Sometimes things will come up. For example, I did a really cool contemporary opera last November, I think, or maybe 2 Novembers ago now. And around the same time, I did a production on the east coast of Canada of Così fan tutte. So it's kind of two back-to-back productions, which was nice. And then I took a break for a while. So yeah, I kind of got my fill for a while. So I'll start getting hungry again, I guess, for opera productions.
I think you played it very well. So often you'll see people that really pursue it into the ground and then find out way later about the lifestyle thing, or just can't quite make it because very few people do kind of make it in the opera world. It's an absurd career and an absurd art form, and you do absolutely have to be willing to grind for a long time to make it happen, and you have to love it or some part of it. Like, I don't love all of the things about it, but the performing acoustically with orchestra in a big space is such a special feeling, not one I'm willing to let go of yet. And it is this, I mean, I'm always kind of in the pursuit of excellence in whatever I'm doing. And it is really cool, even after having been singing classically for 13 years at this point, like still improving and still finding things about the technique to polish. Sometimes even having like mini breakthroughs where like, I didn't even know I could make a jump like this at this point, is pretty exciting. And it is a forever path. It's like, you don't reach the point where you're done with your technique. It's like ever changing, which is kind of exciting.
That's one of the hardest things as for me to understand when I was a young singer, like just starting out in university, and then trying to impart that wisdom on those that I teach, because a lot of people want instant results when it comes to singing. And I'm like, okay, technique is a lifelong journey, my friend. You know, you're not, there's not just one day where you're like, right, I'm done. I don't need to think about it anymore.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know. Yeah.
At least not in especially in the genres that involve so much, like where there's a specific way, a really specific approach. It's not like where you might be a singer-songwriter and like your natural voice is the thing that you want and what the people want to hear. You know, that's a whole different ballgame. It's like you might have a 16-year-old that's like kind of done, at least for what they're going to be releasing, you know, to the general public. Yeah,
it's also too with so many there's so many mergings of styles in the world. Like even this contemporary opera I mentioned, there were 3 singers, and we didn't sing in a necessarily traditional operatic sound, right? There was elements of musical theater, and there were elements of very contemporary styles. So even that, if you go into that kind of gig with pretty much your operatic technique, you feel pretty solid in it, you're going to be challenged simply by what the director and the musical team want from your voice too.
Was it musically really challenging, that piece?
Oh, it was brutally hard.
Man.
It was staged, but on book. That's how hard it was.
Okay.
So the way
what was it called?
It was called Showroom.
Okay.
It was called Showroom. Yeah, I can send you the details.
Yeah, I would love
so
to.
You can get the composer.
I had a very similar experience last summer that I'll tell you about, but please continue.
Yeah. So we workshopped it a few times, and 3 characters, 2 sopranos and a baritone, and the expectation from the beginning was, okay, well, let's do it on book, because it would have been so much more work to get it memorized, and honestly, they would have had to have paid us 4 times more just to get that. They generally just wanted to get a sense of it. So we set the staging, or the director did the staging, so that we could either be seated or standing with a music stand, and the music stand was somewhat disguised as a set piece almost.
Sure.
But we also had to always be facing out, because we needed to follow the conductor blindly. Like we needed to follow her, and she was so great. Like I couldn't believe how much she had prepared, because we needed absolute clarity from her.
Every single cue. Yeah.
And every measure was a different time signature, or like it was completely atonal for the most part. Like I remember so clearly, I was standing on stage, and I was waiting for there was a lot of percussion in this as well, because it was commissioned by a contemporary ensemble. So that's how you know it's going to be crazy. So I was waiting for a cue, not only when to come in, but what note I have to come in on, using relative pitch from a bowed, like, xylophone or something like that. So he had to bow it, and he's like, by the way, like, I might not always get the note, because sometimes just the way the bow hits the instrument, it doesn't actually produce a sound. Like, oh, awesome. So
great.
He comes in on an F sharp, and I had to come in on an A sharp. So already it wasn't that helpful. So that was the kind of production it was. And I remember just thinking, like, what am I doing?
Wow.
But it was a lot of fun, and it was a huge challenge. And you know what? It came together in the end. And maybe you've encountered this as well, like one gig getting you another gig, or a series of gigs, because I had done one a few years previous where it was a composer called Anna Sokolovich, who's a Canadian composer, and this music was also very strange and a cappella, and we had to try, well, not all of it was a cappella, but we had to piece it together. And I just remember learning my part as much as I could and saying, there's no way we're doing this. And then when everybody came together, it was like a puzzle, and it all just fit. And the music was beautiful. It was wacky and out there.
Yeah.
But it was beautiful in its own way. And that gig led to this gig. So Take the
go.
gig because it might lead to something you never
Yeah.
thought you would be doing.
I'm trying to avoid the most of the super new
Good.
stuff, just because of the challenge of it. We had a piece last summer we did a basically a concert on book performance of it, because everyone acknowledged like this is the hardest piece of music we've ever done. It's by this guy named Matthew O'Coin, who actually came on the podcast like 6 months ago.
Oh, yeah.
Brilliant guy, like absolutely brilliant, just like next level thinker. His music is fiendishly difficult. I mean, we probably put in 100 hours of studying before getting to rehearsals, and then still working with him, working with the director, the conductor, all in a room for like 2 weeks. We still were on book by performance, and we did do it. We really did it, and we did it well, but it was like just an absolutely heroic undertaking for an hour-long piece on book.
Yeah, I know, and you know, those are the kind of decisions you got to think about when you take a gig. It's like, okay, here's how long it's going to take me. I don't know if I can do that, right? And yeah, it's a hard.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
financially, like we as YouTubers have it's been really wonderful seeing the like dollar per hour value of our work go up and up and up and up over the last 4 years. And so now it's like, if I'm going to be putting in 150 hours on a piece, like I know what that looks like if I put that all towards YouTube, and it's a nice paycheck.
yeah,
You know what I mean? So that's part of it. And for me now, I've done probably over 30 operatic roles at this point, which is crazy. And so now I'm starting to repeat roles. And that is fantastic, because you'll have to repolish it. You have to put it into your new technique or whatever, but you don't have to learn the count from Figaro and memorize it, which takes so long. There's just so many words, so much recit, especially, is so hard to memorize. And so that makes the decision much easier, where like you look at the paycheck and you're like, oh, so this paycheck is like for the rehearsals and the performances. It's not like putting in 50 hours to learn the thing before you show up, which is very different how that breaks down financially,
Absolutely. Yeah. And those are all the things that you sort of learn on your own. Like I can't remember ever thinking about that or talking about that in school, for example. Just being faced with that real life situation and going, oh, okay, so this is what it is. Like I did, I was really fortunate actually when I did Figaro, because I had done it at a summer program that summer, and then performed it again that following November. So I basically got to workshop it for 2 months and learn it, and not because I was so young, not really worry about getting paid, because it was obviously a summer program. So I could really learn it without thinking about that. But it was then later on when I was faced with those kinds of decisions and thinking, okay, I can really come prepared for this and like know every single detail, but I need to take a look at, okay, how much am I getting paid? How much is that going to take me? Mm-hmm. I did Così fan tutte on the East Coast, and I had done the role before, but I had done it in Italian, and we did it in English.
So it's basically a whole new role to learn.
It's basically, a whole new role, and the translations sometimes are just like, what am I?
It's not right. It's not right. I know.
It's just wrong. So it was interesting though to do 2 Mozart roles twice.
Mm-hmm. That's unusual.
I would love to do it. I'd love to do both shows again. I might be one of the only people who Così fan tutte is my favorite Mozart opera.
I'm a big fan too. I'm honestly a big fan. I'm doing it this summer at Aspen.
I love it.
Singing Alfonso. It's a bang. I mean, there's just a lot of hits. Musically, just a lot of hits in that show.
I love it. I might not want to watch it because it is quite long. I don't know how I would think of it as an audience member, but as a performer, I love it. Ton of recit though, like all the Ponte operas.
Yeah, exactly. What summer program did you do?
So I did. This was many years ago. It doesn't even exist anymore. It was called Long Reach Opera Workshop here in Toronto.
Okay.
And all my friends were doing it. So that was really wonderful. And yeah, I didn't end up doing like the US program circuit very much. Most of my summers when I was in university, I was either back home and working, or I was doing some sort of production or program in Toronto. So I kind of missed out on all the fun programs. Unfortunately, in Canada, they're not doing so well. The programs. The first one I ever did, it was amazing. It was on the east coast of Canada. We did, and it was bumping back then. It was huge. Everybody wanted to go to it. All the universities in Canada, at least, all the students wanted to go because it was east coast of Canada. The seafood's good.
Okay.
You're by the ocean. It's fantastic.
Nice.
So I did Giulio Cesare, and I was like 14 or something. So to be with professionals with a Baroque orchestra came in from Toronto to perform it with us. We did it at Baroque pitch. I learned what recit was. And they did like Rizalka and like 2 other full productions. And it's kind of faded away, which is so sad for Canadians, because to go to an American program just takes a bit more time and more money to be able to do that. So to go one closer to home is a nice option. And ever since the pandemic, a lot of them have closed down. I'm sure it's the same in the US in some programs that they've struggled and have kind of faded into obscurity. But yeah. It's sad for up and coming singers.
Yeah, for your opportunities. A lot of people still go over to Europe from the US. There's that's kind of like a rite of passage to like an Italian pay to sing.
Yeah.
Like my first one was Opera Lucca. I think it was the first year they did it, and it was in Lucca, Italy. A month long, Italian, super intensive. We had like 3 or 4 hours of Italian every day. Was really speaking it by the end of that month, which was cool. Not as good now, even though I've done a bunch more roles in Italian. And we just did like scenes and like little concerts and stuff. But like every singer I know in the States, even the people who are big time singers now, they all started with the Italian pay to sings. Is like a funny little rite of passage.
Nice. That's awesome. That's awesome.
So teaching. So how much time are you splitting between? Actually, let me just ask, how are you splitting your time between all the things you do?
Oh, very carefully. So I basically everything I've done up to this point, from teaching and YouTube, I've made more mistakes than I could possibly imagine. Maybe you're in the same boat.
Of course.
Yeah, whether it's taxes and all that business side of things, or just managing your time. So that's been the biggest hurdle for me. And if I ever do or read like self-help books or anything, or business management books, it's all about time. How can I manage my time? So what I've been doing is, okay, I'll start with a mistake that I made and how I learned from it. Okay. So I was teaching at one point full days on Zoom. So like I was doing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday from 9 to 5 on Zoom. And I wanted to pull my hair out. As much as I loved everyone that I taught, and I'm really fortunate because my students are awesome, it was too much. Even if I could have done 9 to 5 and it were 30-minute lessons, I think that even would have been more manageable. But trying to teach someone on Zoom for 60 minutes it's a long time. So I've stopped doing that, and I've cut down my studio size a bit. So now I'm only doing really 3 days a week, but half days. So I'll do like a 9 to 1 or a 1 to 5 situation. And the rest is content creation in some way. If I can get someone to like hire an editor for a bit or something, that can save a lot of time. And spending maybe a whole morning, like for example, tomorrow morning I don't teach, so I'll spend that entire morning just planning when I'm going to post things, maybe putting up a few scripts or something, and just getting organized that way. So the rest of the week, I don't have to think about it so much. And then I'll spend, like this morning, for example, I spent a few hours editing and uploading to YouTube. And I'll do a bit of filming this afternoon and catching up with brands and all that stuff. My next step in time management is just to get some people on board on the team to try to take some of those tasks that really eat up my time and things that I'm not the best at. I think that's what I've learned is if you can focus on the tasks that you're the best at and offload the tasks that other people are really good at that maybe you don't want to do, then that's a good way to go. So it's a lot of editing, a lot of filming, a lot of teaching, and being very careful with my schedule.
Yeah,
for sure.
You have to. How much time do you spend on? You talked about writing scripts, which is not something I do because and maybe it's the same for you for your analysis videos where it's just hit play and then talk. But for short form content where I imagine that's what you're talking about for script writing.
It's mostly with brand. Like if I work with a brand, that has a script in mind. For example, I'm currently working with a brand, and we've been back and forth a few times just to get the copy right, figured out, and exactly what I'm saying, just to maximize the message. Or if it's I'm starting to grow. I have more of a teaching account, so I've discovered in the last little bit that you're not as successful if you have a channel that it's too many things at once, then people get confused. So I have a vocal coach account or a teaching account where I'll maybe put a video a day out, just maybe sharing some exercises or some tips or something, and those I kind of script a little bit just to get the right hook and just to make sure it's grabby enough. But with the analysis videos, I just hit play. I don't even like to see anything about the performance beforehand. Like I just did a Lara Fabian one. She's been a staple on my channel, and her fan base is insanely passionate.
I think
more passionate than I've ever.
I've gotten a ton of recommendations for her.
Do it.
I don't think I've ever dove in.
Yeah, you should. She's a really good performer. But I try not to see anything, or even if somebody's doing a cover, I don't even want to see the original, simply just because I want it to be an honest reaction, and if I have an inkling of what's to come, then I find the video it doesn't perform as well, right? So so not a lot of scripting, which is nice. I can just click play and then I go, which is way better.
And then as far as editing your analysis videos, mention you generally are the one editing your stuff, and I'm curious how much time you spend roughly per video.
Yeah, so that's one of the first tasks. I sometimes have an editor. Just depends on what's going on. But if I film, I'm generally in the 15-minute to 22-minute range. That seems to be my average. Sometimes 25, sometimes like 35, 40 minutes. But generally I'm in that zone, which means that I probably have close to 40 minutes of footage. And so I'm getting more concise. I'm getting better at speaking and not flubbing the words in my videos. You've probably encountered the same thing. Like when I first started, I was like, okay, let me say that again. I'm getting better at that as time goes by, without trying to be repetitive. So I will probably spend 2 hours on a video. That's probably the max I need. I'm pretty quick at editing now because I've been doing it for 5 years, and I've created templates and animations that are just drag and drop. Yeah. So I try not to spend too much time, but probably 2 hours of video, probably 10 to 12 hours a week editing. Okay. Which is way too much. I need to offload that. Yeah, it's way too much. Because you don't get paid for that, really, if you think about it. You could break it down like, okay, here's how much I get from YouTube. Here's how much I spent on this video, and break it down that way. But it's not a way to look at it.
Yeah, yeah. That was one of the best, probably the best decision I made for my team is having I think I got an editor at the start of 2023. Yeah, I think started 2023. It's been a while now, and he's an ace. His name's Mason. He also edits Mortius's videos, and he has his own like fantastic YouTube channel where he does these crazy, like, have you seen the memes where it's like, "There, I ruined it," where like they might take a song and then like
Yes.
destroy it and make it really funny, like a meme. He'll do that with classical music, and it's fantastic.
Oh, amazing.
But it's definitely worth the money as long as the channel's making enough to pay for it. But it offloads a ton of time. I'm a very basic video editor, so like I can edit, I can make a very basic music video, I could do the stuff needed to put up a basic analysis video, but he does like, he'll put all these cool graphic, like if I'm talking about a chord, he'll like have the graphic up and highlight it with dings, and
Ooh.
he'll do a lot of funny edits too, which is cool just to keep people engaged. It would take me a very long time, and I don't even know if I could do all of it. And yeah, just that offload, I'm sure saves me however much you're spending, 10, 12 hours a week editing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good thing to get rid of because he is better at it than you are.
For
right?
sure.
Video editors, and,
yeah.
and that lights them up, right? It lights us up to make the videos and talk about the music. It lights them up to edit it. So,
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly. You might want to check out a book called Deep Work by Cal Newport. Have you read it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I wondered if you're in that space. It's brilliant.
Oh, yeah. Love that book.
I think about that a lot. That is the only way to strike the balance for me anyway, is when I'm working on a task, that has got to be the only thing I'm working on. And the rest of it's got to be the phone over there, everything, all distractions gone, or the tower will crumble.
Yeah. And then you just like, you just start panicking and you're like, oh, you think about a task. Oh, I got to do that. Or, oh, I have to do that. And then the product of what you're actually working on suffers for it.
Big time.
No, it's a great book. And it's a great way of thinking.
Absolutely. Tell me about your ebook, Learn to Sing from Home.
Yeah. So ebooks, again, I'm kind of venturing as well into the digital marketing space. And I realized in the last like year and a half, especially in reading some of these books as well, in that, so I can put a lot of effort into giving one person a lot of information, or I can 100x that by focusing on resources that I can create and send to thousands of people.
Yeah.
So that's where that ebook came from. And there's a couple of ebooks there too, where it's just, pick a topic and then fill it out. And I look at it and I make it and I'm like, hey, this is great content. Maybe it's a bit basic for someone like you or someone like me who's more of an advanced singer, but people need that basic stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So what I'm getting into now is creating these lead magnets and then posting about it and having a program like ManyChat or Stan Store, which has auto DMs, and just sending it to people automatically to grow that following. And the reason I got so intense about it in the last couple of weeks is because the TikTok ban, which my account wouldn't have been banned, your accounts would have been banned on TikTok and other Americans. But this idea that we don't own our audience in any way on Instagram or TikTok or YouTube, they own it. And at any point, if they decide, Nick, I don't really like him, boom, he's gone, right? They can take it away. Yeah. So building an email list and getting people, audience members, to various platforms so you don't lose them all at once has been a big priority of mine. And things like Patreon or Buy Me a Coffee as well, just trying to grow those audiences, as well as I will be launching a teaching community on my Stan Store. They just opened that new feature just to get like-minded people, beginner to intermediate singers who want to learn more, into one space where I can share resources with all of them rather than individually, because that's way too much work to be sending them all out.
Not enough time. No.
No.
How do you create an ebook?
So very, very simply, just pick a topic and jot down, get a rough structure of how you want it to go. So this ebook, How to Sing from Home, was a combination of two things. So basic vocal technique, so some simple exercises, as well as how you can actually modify your space to sing in your own home. Because it came from a question that people ask me all the time. I want to sing. How do I do it in my house without, annoying the neighbors and all that stuff? So you can make it on Canva. Canva is one of the greatest tools for a content creator ever. And you can literally click ebook and it will give you a rough template. You can change the colors, you can change the graphics, and then add your own flair to it. And then just put all the information in. It's so easy. Like you could do an ebook on how to prep for an operatic role, for example. And you can just send that out to people in exchange for their email. And then that's a beautiful transaction in which you now have their name in a database and you can send them other things. So it's very, very simple.
I'm going to pick your brain about that after
please do.
After the official chat. I'm interested about building an email list and that sort of thing. It's not something I've really dove into a whole lot.
Yeah.
Okay. Life outside music. Is there a life outside music for you? Do you have hobbies and things you're into once the camera's off?
Oh, absolutely. So I love reading books, not just the books that will help you in your business. Love fantasy, love Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter. I'm reading a series called The Inheritance Cycle right now, which I absolutely love.
I've read those.
Do a lot of audiobooks, ton of audiobooks. Like I decided one day that I hate doom scrolling. Like doom scrolling just makes my body cringe because it's just such a. If you do, it's a waste of time. If you spend all of your days, or if you're just trying to do deep work, right, and you're trying to focus. So I've replaced that with audiobooks, and I'll be cooking or something. I also love to cook. I'll be cooking, or I'll be doing miscellaneous work that doesn't involve too much thinking. I'll just put it on, and I really enjoy that. This isn't quite outside music, but I really do enjoy music directing. That was something new that came up in my life the last couple of years. We did a production of Matilda, the musical, which I was in, but I was also music director, and I had so much fun just learning all of the music, because as a music director, you should do that if you can. Learn all the music, and then teach people how you want it to be done and things they can do musically to make it better. So I love that. As I said, I love cooking. I love exercise. I love going on walks and doing all that cliche stuff that people do. But yeah, I found that if I do music 100% of the time, I will go crazy, and I will start to resent music in a strange way, and I will enjoy it less. So having hobbies outside of that is crucial.
Have you read A Song of Ice and Fire?
I have.
Okay.
I have.
Just checking. I was a big reader as a kid, and then I stopped for so long, probably because we had to read so many books for school, and I was like, I just don't want to ever read. Don't want to read.
That was me.
And then 2021, I think, maybe 2020, one of the summers of the pandemic, I think it was the first summer of the pandemic, so 2020, I picked up Song of Ice and Fire because I love Game of Thrones so much, and that completely re-sparked my enjoyment with reading. And since every night before I go to bed, I'll read something fantasy. So I think I've since then I've gone through Song of Ice and Fire and Harry Potter and like Six of Crows and The Inheritance Cycle. I even read like the Lightning Thief books that are for like middle schoolers, but still enjoyed them. So it's great. There's so much good stuff out there, and it's such a nice like cleansing after a day of work to just like dive into a story. Yeah,
I love and just like it makes even though it's not real, the emotions are very real. And if I'm having like, say I'm having a bad day, or like I didn't get a video done and I'm upset about that, reading books like that where these people are going through some stuff, it just makes it's relatable in a way, and it just makes me feel better about whatever I'm going through
Yeah.
in that moment. Like I'm just like, oh God, they can overcome that.
Yeah.
I can overcome this. It's a comfort, and I love it.
Yeah, definitely. All right, last thing. What are some goals you have for yourself or for your career? If you have any.
Yeah,
Specific
I have so many. Yeah, I can try to
figured.
narrow it down. I would love to. I've been so focused on other singers the last couple of years, whether it be my videos, analysis videos, or teaching. I really want to focus on my own singing as well. I sing all day, every day with people, and I just want to spend a bit more time singing covers. I'm not really interested in writing my own music at this point in time or posting originals or anything, but just recording more covers and posting them on YouTube. I'd love to start posting on Spotify as well. That's an area that I haven't gone to yet for whatever. There's no reason why, but I want to start doing that. Obviously the golden play button is always it's always there, right? We're always going for that.
That's the white whale for any YouTuber.
Yeah.
I got one. Look, I got mine, and then the Bass Gang one came in like a couple weeks ago. So
do you each get one?
You have to you get one for free, and you have to order the other ones for the team. But you can all get one. So
nice.
Yeah, everyone gets a Bass Gang plaque. They're smaller now though. They're a little smaller than they used to be because
mine was surprisingly small. I was like, oh, that's that. Oh, okay.
I wonder if you got it before or after maybe you got it just after they switched. Because this is the first one. You can see how much bigger it is. This is the one that I got summer of 2023.
Yeah.
And then this is the smaller one. They're about the same distance away. So that's how.
Yeah.
If you can look past me to see it. There we go.
Yeah, I thought it was a gold one at first because it's so much bigger than.
So much bigger. No. I got a ways to go. I just got to 270. But we're a ways away from the gold.
That's awesome though. You'll get there. We'll both get there. I've admired your content for a long time, and you will get there without any problems.
Yeah, I think we're doing all the right things, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I interrupted your goals. More of your own singing stuff.
Spotify artist would be great. Just getting my own singing in the works and continuing to grow my channels. I'm hoping with this community, one of my goals for 2025 is to really build out this community, just to get everybody together with a common goal. I'd also love to do more, like group teaching and whether it be courses or just like master classes or things like that. Speaking of the word masterclass, I will tell you one final story that will make you cringe. So, and maybe your audience knows the great Jesse Norman. Mm-hmm. Probably one of the greatest singers of all time.
Yeah.
So at the University of Toronto, where I attended, every year we had like a big name would come to the school and do a masterclass. So it was Jesse Norman came one year, and the year after was Thomas Hampson, for example.
Nice,
so
yeah. Big names.
Big
Very big names.
And so at the beginning of the year, we do these auditions, and in the auditions, if you're in your first year or second year, they place you in whatever choir, because there were like 4 or 5 choirs. But they also place you in the 50 master classes that take place through the year. So I'm in my 4th year, and I audition, and the results come out, and I am selected to sing for Jesse Norman.
Wow.
God, freaking out, right? Because I'm like, what am I going to sing?
As an undergrad, especially, that's a lot of pressure.
It was huge. Yeah, it was like 4 or 5 master's students and then like 2 undergrads or something.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so the night before, I'm all prepped. I forget what I was going to sing. Maybe I Vinta la Causa, honestly. Or maybe something shorter. I can't remember. And I'm like, hey, so ready for this. And then I'm like sitting at home, and I just hear my stomach. I'm like, oh, that's a weird. I'm like, I'm feeling okay. I mean, I'm just a bit nervous. I'm probably just a little bit nervous.
Yeah.
and it did not get any better. And then I, through the night, was like violently ill. Like I was so sick. I don't know what it was, but my guess is that I gave myself food poisoning from undercooked chicken.
Okay.
So everyone in the school got to meet Jesse Norman except for me.
You had to cancel the whole day.
I couldn't. So thankfully there was an alternate that got to go and perform, but I was, I didn't get to meet her. Everybody did except for me. That's my horror story.
Oh man, I thought you were gonna like really embarrass yourself in front of her when you started that story.
I would have rather have done that, honestly. Yeah, so that's my Jesse Norman story that now your audience knows.
All right, right on. Any other final words to the audience before we sign off?
No, I guess I'll just say if you're somebody who loves music and you've always wanted to sing, just try it. Try singing. You don't have to do it for anybody but yourself. And yeah, just try it. Enjoy it. You can find me on social media at Nick Higgs the Singer. And I'm really honored to have been here today. Thanks so much.
Perfect. I appreciate you, man. Stay on the line after and we'll debrief about the chat.
Love it.
All right. Peace, man. Hi, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Nick Higgs. If you did, I am sure you will enjoy this conversation with another YouTuber, singer, and teacher, Jennifer Glatzoffer. Go on. Click it.